In this video, I wanted to share a clip of a video that YouTube recommended to me the other day. It's called Bad News: How Woke Media Undermines Democracy. And it was an event that I believe was held at UC Berkeley. The YouTube page here that this is posted on is UC Berkeley School of Law. And they are having a discussion with an author here, and the title of the book is the title of that video, Bad News: How Woke Media is Undermining Democracy, written by Batya Ungar-Sargon. She's a Jewish woman who actually is politically on the left, and she's speaking in this event to people who I think by and large would be politically on the left as well. I found this conversation really fascinating because she's coming from a different place than I would be, and a lot of people in my audience would be coming from, and yet she says some things that I think are really insightful. And I would encourage you, I'm going to show a clip of this, and if it interests you, I would encourage you to go and watch the whole video. I will leave a link to the entire video in the video description of this video if you'd like to check it out. But the clip that I want to show you, she's talking a little bit about her book, and she really brings up a very important point. It's something that I've talked about before too, what someone has termed monetizing rage, the idea that people are making a lot of money off of our anger today, and they use social media to do that. And I think she does a really good job of bringing that out in this clip. So I'm going to play that for you so you get a taste of this conversation.
We're going to get into our audience in a few minutes here with questions. So before we do that, I want to just give you a chance. You know, we zoomed in there on the particular case of Jews in Israel. I want to zoom back out to 30,000 feet and give you a chance to talk about what you talk about near the end of the book, which is where you think we go from here, right? What do you think, what do you want our audience to take away in terms of what can we do to improve the discourse? What can we do to kind of rescue class, which, you know, whatever you and I disagree about, I agree with you very strongly that income inequality is a hugely neglected issue and a hugely important issue, and we're not able to make progress on a host of other issues without tackling that in a serious way. So how do you recommend that people help redirect the conversation?
Make relationships with people you disagree with. That's a whole game. Be part of the army that is stitching back together the fabric of American society, and that is how you do that. Remember what it means and how it feels to respect somebody whose views make you angry. You know, every time you're on your phone or you're on your computer and you're scrolling through social and you see something that makes you feel enraged, you know that feeling that's like road rage, like, oh, I can't believe this person believes this, I have to write something on Twitter. Every time you feel that rage, someone is making $1 million. I'm being totally serious, like totally literally, like it is not normal to feel that way about a stranger. And we feel that way because very, very smart people who are much smarter than you or I, have figured out how to make us feel that way about people we've never met, about our fellow Americans, and it's wrong. And you can be a person who trains yourself how not to feel that way by going to shul, by going to church, by going to volunteer, by finding spaces that are not political in your life, and making relationships with people that are not based on political agreement, and remembering what it feels like to be a Democrat, small d, you know, to respect the views of somebody you disagree with. That's the only, because, you know, the sad thing is that this media stuff, it's really profitable, and I just don't see it turning around. We consume too much media. We know too much stuff. You don't need to know like who AOC is angry at every single day. We don't need to know that. Like, we know that because people are getting rich off of telling us that, but you can decide not to need to know that. You know, like it's not, you want to know what's going on in your community, go find out what's happening in your community, you know? That's just, it's not satisfying, but that's all I got.
So again, what I appreciate is she's actually someone who is politically on the left, and she's talking here to people who are, I believe, primarily on the political left. But she really had, I think, an epiphany in her own thinking. She kind of woke up to some things through some different experiences, and she realized that a lot of the things that she was hearing on the left were in a bubble, and she really had a skewed perspective previously. And now she wrote this book talking, I think, about the reality of what's going on, and that's why it's titled here, How Woke Media is Undermining Democracy. So really interesting. I haven't read the book, although I am very interested in it, and one of the things she brings out in this talk that I think is worth listening to is the idea of, so often today what we hear the big problem is racism, and we hear that word so much. I'm sure a lot of you identify with that we hear that word all the time. But what she brings out here is that actually what we're dealing with a lot today is more an issue of class rather than race. And I think she makes some really good points about that. But she also really, I think, has come to see something that is really almost, from her perspective, mind-blowing and surprising, but it's really interesting to listen to her talk about this, that even though the left often accuses the political right of being racist, what she has come to see is that it's actually people on the left who are more prone to exhibiting racist tendencies. And that is really, I think, insightful and fascinating to hear her, as someone on the left, acknowledge that and talk about it. And I think it just shows you how easily we as humans can be self-deceived. Another thing that this video really brings out, what she was just talking about there, is what the Bible talks about. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And we have to remember today that a lot of our dissension is being driven by profit. People who are making a lot of money off of our dissension, off of our going at each other in anger and rage. So I really thought she had some good words of wisdom that we need to really get out of those habits that we can often get into with social media. We need to take the time to listen to people. I really think that she's practicing what she preaches. She actually is listening to people who have different perspectives than her, and she has good dialogue, and I think that's so important. So if you're interested in listening to that conversation, again, I will leave a link to it in the video description of this video. I have to say, honestly, I was really moved by a lot of what I heard, and I think it's just so interesting that you can disagree with someone, they can be coming from a different standpoint, and yet they can really speak a lot of insight and truth, and I think she really does. And so I was really impressed with what I heard in this, especially in the context that she was talking in here at UC Berkeley of Law, this event, and talking to people on the left. I just thought it was really insightful and fascinating. And certainly what she is recommending there is something that I'm really trying to do on my channel, which is to encourage people to listen, to think about things, and have good dialogue about it. So in the comment section, feel free to leave comments and interaction. Just try to keep that dialogue edifying and helpful to conversation. But thank you so much for taking a look at this topic with me a little bit here from A Frisch Perspective.